I've never been attracted to you, my husband casually admitted. He was drunk when he said it. But the worst part wasn't hearing those words. The worst part was discovering that he'd been sober every other time he'd lied to me. My name is Kristen Cook. I'm 32 years old, and until a few months ago, I genuinely believed I had a good marriage. Adam and I had been together almost 4 years, married for 2. I worked in construction management. He was 29 and worked in accounting. We had a comfortable house, good careers, and talked vaguely about having kids in a couple years. And I loved him, completely. Adam seemed to love me too. He made my lunch sometimes, sent me stupid memes during meetings, and once stayed home all day taking care of me when I had the flu. Those little things made me feel chosen. Then, about 2 months before everything fell apart, Adam changed. He started coming home from work looking emotionally drained. I'd ask how his day went, and instead of telling me stories like he normally did, he'd say, "Fine," then disappear into the television. Sometimes during dinner, I'd catch him staring at his plate. "Adam?" He'd blink. "What? You haven't touched your food?" "Oh, sorry. Work stuff." One night, after he'd barely spoken to me, I finally asked, "Is everything okay between us?" He looked at me strangely, almost guilty. "Everything's fine, Kristen. You know you can tell me if something isn't." "I know." He squeezed my hand. "I just need some space to figure things out." That sentence stayed with me. I started wondering whether I'd been too focused on work, so I tried harder. I cooked his favorite dinner, planned a couple of date nights, and even bought him a watch he'd wanted. He kissed my cheek when I gave it to him. "This is too much." I wanted to. For half a second, he looked like he might cry. At the time, I thought I'd touched him. Later, I realized it was guilt. The first real crack appeared when I came home early one afternoon. Our project had finished ahead of schedule. As I walked toward the front door, I heard Adam talking inside through an open window. His older brother Kyle was on speaker. "I don't know how to tell her," Adam said. "She didn't do anything wrong. Kristen's a good woman. That's what makes this worse." I stopped. Then Kyle said, "Dragging out a divorce won't make it easier." "Divorce?" I stood there staring at my own front door. Adam started moving around inside, so I backed away, got into my SUV, and drove until my hands stopped shaking. When I finally came home, Adam was sitting on the couch. He looked startled. "You're early." "Project wrapped ahead of schedule." I watched him put his phone face down. "Everything okay with Kyle?" His expression shifted for half a second. "Kyle?" "Yeah." "Oh, sure. Same old stuff." He was lying. From that moment on, I started noticing things I'd ignored before. The late nights. The after-work drinks. The phone always nearby. Then came Friday. Adam went out with people from work. Around midnight, I was half asleep on the couch when the front door opened. He stumbled inside. He wasn't tipsy. He was wasted. His shirt was half untucked. His hair was messy. And he nearly tripped taking off his shoes. "You okay?" I asked. "I'm fantastic." He dropped beside me and leaned his head against my shoulder. For a few minutes, he rambled about work. Then suddenly he said, "You know you're a really good woman, right?" Something about his tone made my stomach tighten. "Okay." "No, seriously." He looked at me. "You're stable. You're reliable. You're successful. My parents absolutely adore you." "Those sound like compliments." "They are." He laughed quietly. "That's why I married you." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" He went silent. Then he asked, "Can I tell you something terrible?" Every instinct told me not to answer. I nodded anyway. Adam looked directly at me. "I've never really been attracted to you." For a moment, I honestly thought I'd misunderstood him. "What?" "Not even at the beginning." He said it almost casually. "I liked you. I respected you. I thought you were beautiful objectively. But that thing where you can't stop thinking about someone? Where being around them makes everything else disappear." He shook his head. I never felt that with you. I couldn't breathe properly. So why did you marry me? His face crumpled. My family kept telling me to grow up. Stop chasing the wrong women. Find someone stable. Someone who actually had her life together. And then, you found me. He nodded. You were everything they wanted for me. I pulled my hand away from him. So, I was convenient. No. A checklist? Kristen. A respectable job. Nice family. Stable income. Your parents approved. It's not like that? It sounds exactly like that. He covered his face. I thought attraction would grow. Then he whispered something worse. I thought eventually I'd stop comparing you. My entire body went still. Comparing me to who? He didn't answer. There was someone else. His eyes filled with tears. Before you. Who? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. She's gone. She. There it was. Adam stared toward the ceiling. My parents hated her. They thought she was reckless. Bad for me. And maybe they were right. But you loved her. He closed his eyes. I did. Not I thought I did. Not once. Just. I did. Adam eventually passed out on the couch. I sat beside him in darkness for several minutes. Then I did something absurd. I covered him with a blanket. 4 years of habit apparently doesn't disappear just because your marriage does. I went upstairs and packed a bag. I checked into a motel 10 minutes away. By morning, I had 23 missed calls. Please come home. I was drunk. I didn't mean it like that. I love you. Please answer me. I sent one message. Need time. Don't contact me for a few days. But there was one question I couldn't stop thinking about. Who was she? Monday morning, I contacted Adam's best friend, Mark. We met at a cafe downtown. The second Mark saw me, I knew. He knew. I told him what Adam had confessed. Mark barely looked surprised. Kristen, he does care about you. That's not what I asked. He stared into his coffee. Who is she? It's not my story. My marriage apparently wasn't my story either. That landed. Finally, he gave me a name. Vanessa. She'd dated Adam years before we met. His parents hated her. The breakup had wrecked him. Then Mark told me the part that mattered. Adam's accounting firm had merged with Vanessa's company in January. She was back in his life. I left the cafe and drove directly to our house while I knew Adam was working. His laptop was sitting in our home office. Unlocked. I searched his email first. Nothing. Then I opened his cloud drive. There was a folder labeled Personal. Inside were journal entries going back years. One contained Vanessa's name. Then I found an entry written shortly after Adam met me. Kristen seems great. Stable career. Kind. Mom already loves her. She's nothing like Vanessa, which I guess is the point. My hands started shaking. I kept reading. Then I found the entry from the night we got engaged. Kristen proposed tonight. I said yes. Everyone is thrilled. She's crazy about me. That should be enough, right? I stopped breathing. But the entry continued. Maybe eventually my feelings will catch up. I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I opened an entry from January. Vanessa's back. Her company merged with ours. I showed her pictures of Kristen and the house and told her how happy I am. Then, one final sentence. It might be the biggest lie I've ever told. I sat alone in the office we'd built together, staring at my husband's private confession. He hadn't simply lost his attraction to me. He'd entered our marriage hoping it might eventually appear. And now, the woman he'd been trying to replace with me was back. I photographed the entries, closed the laptop, put everything exactly where I'd found it. Then I walked out. I wasn't going to confront Adam that day. Because suddenly, I understood something he didn't know yet. I wasn't trying to save my marriage anymore. I was planning how to leave it. I spent that night staring at the photos I'd taken of Adam's journal. One sentence kept coming back to me. Maybe eventually my feelings will catch up. 4 years. I'd spent 4 years loving a man who had apparently been waiting to feel something stronger. I called my older sister Jackie that night. She knew immediately something was wrong. Where are you? A motel. Kristen. What happened? I told her enough. Adam had never been attracted to me. His ex-girlfriend Vanessa was back, and he'd been writing about her while married to me. Jackie went quiet. Then she said, "Come stay with me." I can't. Why? Because if I come there, it becomes real. It already is real. I hated hearing it, mostly because she was right. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney. Within 2 days, I'd met with her, gathered our financial records, opened an individual account, and started separating what I could. I also found a small apartment 15 minutes from work. I wasn't interested in destroying Adam. I wanted out, quietly. Adam kept calling and texting, "Please talk to me. Whatever you think happened, let me explain. I love you." That last one almost made me laugh. I finally understood how meaningless those words could become when someone repeated them long enough. About 10 days after I left, I agreed to meet him at the house. By then, I'd moved most of what I needed into my apartment. I parked outside and stared at the house for a moment. I'd once imagined children running through that front yard. Now I couldn't wait to give my key back. When I walked inside, Adam looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, messy hair, one of my old college sweatshirts hanging off him. He rushed toward me. "Kristen." I stepped back before he could hug me. "Please, just listen." So I did. Adam apologized for what he'd said while drunk. He blamed stress, confusion, the merger at work. "I was angry at myself," he said. "I took it out on you." "Why were you angry at yourself?" He hesitated. That was all I needed. "I know about Vanessa." His face went white. "What?" "Vanessa." For a second, he tried to pretend he didn't understand. Then I said, "I read your journals." Adam slowly sat down. "You went through my computer?" That was his first response. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Let me explain." "You invaded my privacy." I almost admired the audacity. "You married me while wishing I was someone else." "That's not fair." "I read what you wrote the night we got engaged." His eyes dropped. "That should be enough, right? Maybe eventually my feelings will catch up." "Kristen, was I ever your first choice?" He looked at me and couldn't answer. That hurt more than if he'd said no. Adam explained that Vanessa had been his first serious relationship. His parents hated her, their breakup had been ugly, and he'd spent years romanticizing what they'd had. Then, he'd met me. "I wanted us to work." "That's not the same as wanting me." "I did want you. You wanted what I represented. Stability. A good career. A life your parents approved of." "That's not true." "You were still writing about her while married to me." She suddenly came back into my life. I was confused. "You don't get to make your confusion my responsibility." I reached into my bag, pulled out the divorce papers, and placed them on the coffee table. Adam stared at them. "No, it's not a question." "You're divorcing me?" "Yes." His eyes filled immediately. "Kristen, please. We built a life together." "Based on a lie." "That's not true." "You admitted you were never attracted to me." "I was drunk." "Alcohol didn't invent Vanessa." That stopped him. Then his sadness turned into anger. "I tried, Kristen. I cooked for you. Supported your career. Went to your company dinners. I did everything a husband was supposed to do. I never asked you to perform being my husband." "I wasn't performing." His voice rose. "I spent 4 years being intimate with someone I wasn't attracted to. Do you know what that was like?" Silence. Adam seemed to realize what he'd said almost immediately. "Kristen, I didn't mean—" I raised my hand. "No. That came out wrong." "No, Adam." I felt strangely calm. "That came out honest." He started crying again. I was angry. "Thank you." "For what?" for finally telling me the truth. I picked up my bag. That sentence just made this much easier. He followed me toward the door. Wait. I kept walking. Then he said something that made me stop. Vanessa doesn't want me. I turned around. What? When she came back, I thought maybe it meant something. There it was. You've been seeing her. We had drinks. We talked. There were feelings. Did you kiss her? His silence answered me. I closed my eyes briefly. How long? A few weeks. And you were coming home to me afterward. It wasn't an affair. One look from me made him realize how ridiculous that sounded. I told her I was thinking about leaving, he admitted. Leaving me? Yes. For her. He nodded. And? She backed off. He looked humiliated. She said she wasn't looking for anything serious. She thought we were just reconnecting and having fun. Adam had spent years imagining Vanessa as some great lost love. The moment he offered her a real future, she didn't want it. I finally understand now, he said. Vanessa was an idea. What we have is real. I stared at him. You don't get to choose me because she rejected you. That's not what I'm doing. It's exactly what you're doing. No, Kristen. Losing you made me realize you haven't lost me yet. Hope flashed across his face. I finished the sentence. I'm leaving. I walked out. 3 days later, several bags of takeout from my favorite restaurant arrived at my apartment. A note was attached. I remember what you like. I do pay attention. Please call me. I gave the food to my neighbors. 2 weeks later, Adam appeared at my apartment on a Sunday morning. He looked like he'd rehearsed whatever he was about to say. I almost didn't let him inside. But my neighbors were in the hallway, so I opened the door. Big mistake. Adam started talking about reconciliation, therapy, starting over. When that didn't work, he switched to practical reasons. We'll lose the house. We'll take a financial hit. What are we supposed to tell our families? Then, do you really want to start dating again at 32? I almost smiled. Adam, you've given me every reason not to divorce you except the one that matters. He looked hopeful. Not one of them was that you can't imagine losing me. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. That silence told me more than another journal ever could. Leave. Kristen, leave. When he still refused, I reached for my phone and told him I'd call the police. Then he finally walked out. A few nights later, Kyle called me. I've known about Vanessa for years, he said. Something inside me went cold. You knew Adam wasn't over her? Yes. And you watched us get married. Kyle went quiet. He admitted he'd warned Adam before the wedding that marrying me while still hung up on Vanessa wasn't fair. Adam had insisted he'd moved on. He said he loved me and the past was over. Kyle believed him. So had I. After that call, I stopped wondering whether there was some version of this marriage worth saving. There wasn't. My attorney recommended mediation. Adam initially refused, insisting on counseling and more time. But my lawyer made one thing clear. The divorce was happening whether he cooperated or not. Eventually, he agreed. And for the first time since that drunken Friday night, I slept through an entire night without waking up thinking about Vanessa. Because I finally understood that she wasn't the real reason my marriage ended. Adam was. Vanessa had only exposed what had been there from the beginning. I had spent 4 years believing I was his wife, his partner, his future. But in Adam's mind, I'd always been something much simpler. The safe choice he made when the woman he really wanted wasn't available. And now that I knew that, there wasn't enough love left in me to stay. 6 months later, I sat across from Adam in a conference room and signed the papers that officially ended our marriage. It took less than 5 minutes. Almost 4 years together, 2 years married, 5 minutes to put it all in the past. The mediation had been easier than I expected once Adam finally accepted that I wasn't coming back. I let him keep the house. We split our savings slightly in his favor, something my attorney wasn't thrilled about. You're leaving money on the table, she warned me. I know. Then why agree to it? Because by then, freedom was worth more to me than winning. I didn't want another 6 months of arguments over furniture, bank accounts, or who deserved what. I wanted my name on a divorce decree. When I finished signing, Adam stared at his copy without moving. Then he started crying. Months earlier, seeing him cry would have destroyed me. This time, I felt almost nothing. Maybe that sounds cruel, but there are only so many times someone can break your heart before your body stops reacting. Outside the conference room, Adam asked if we could talk for a minute. I almost said no. Then I figured this might be the last conversation we'd ever have. He looked different, thinner, quieter. He'd been going to therapy. I owe you an apology, he said. You've apologized before. I know, but I think I finally understand what I did. Adam admitted therapy had forced him to face the truth. Vanessa had been the woman he wanted, and losing her had turned their relationship into something almost mythical in his mind. Then he'd met me. Stable, responsible, approved by his family. I thought if I built the right life, everything else would follow, he said. And where did that leave me? His eyes dropped. Paying for it. For once, there was nothing I needed to add. He told me Vanessa had eventually left the company after complaints about blurred professional boundaries. Months earlier, I might have cared. Now I didn't. Vanessa wasn't my problem anymore. Neither was Adam. Before we separated, he asked one final question. Do you think we could ever be friends? No. He looked hurt. Not even someday? I shook my head. You can't build a friendship on lies any more than you can build a marriage on them. He nodded slowly. Then we walked in opposite directions. For the first few months after leaving Adam, I had no interest in dating. None. I worked. I saw Jackie more. I started running again. I bought furniture for my apartment that I actually liked instead of asking myself whether Adam would approve of it. Being alone felt strange at first. Then it started feeling peaceful. And eventually, I met Daniel Foster. Daniel was an architect whose firm worked with my company on a commercial project. Our first real conversation was an argument. He wanted to move a structural element that would have created problems for my crew. I told him his drawing looked beautiful, but apparently existed in a universe where contractors could bend steel with positive thinking. He stared at me, then laughed. Coffee? Is that your response whenever someone insults your design? Only when they're right. I went. A few dates later, Daniel looked across the table at me and said, I like you. I almost laughed. That's very direct. Would you prefer a spreadsheet? I'm still deciding. Take your time. A few weeks later, I told him about Adam, the marriage, Vanessa, the journals, and the sentence that had started everything. I've never really been attracted to you. Daniel squeezed my hand. That explains why you look suspicious every time I compliment you. I laughed. Then he said, we can go as slowly as you need. No promises, no performance, just honesty. Maybe Daniel and I work out. Maybe we don't. I'm okay with either possibility. What I won't live with again is being someone's substitute. A few weeks after the divorce, Kyle mentioned that Adam was selling the house and considering moving to another city. I didn't ask where. For months, I'd wanted to know what Adam was doing, whether he regretted losing me, whether Vanessa was still around. Then one day, I realized I didn't care anymore. That was when I knew I was actually healing. Sometimes I still think about the years I spent with him. I remember vacations, Christmas mornings, the night we moved into our house and ate pizza on the floor because our furniture hadn't arrived. Those memories used to make me angry because I thought discovering the truth meant none of them had been real. I don't believe that anymore. They were real to me. I loved him. I showed up honestly. I meant my vows. His inability to do the same doesn't erase that. If Adam taught me anything, it was that love shouldn't require convincing someone to choose you. He married me because I was safe, because his family approved, because I represented the life he thought he was supposed to want. I won't accept that kind of love again. Maybe Daniel becomes something permanent. Maybe he doesn't. For once, I don't need to know. The future I thought I had disappeared in one drunken conversation, but something else replaced it. A life that actually belongs to me, and I'll never settle for being someone's second choice again.